coming to you today from a small town called Talkeetna. It's about 3 hours north of Anchorage, Alaska. And tomorrow, if we have good weather, me and a group of people will board a plane, get dropped off on a glacier, and spend the next 3 weeks attempting to summit the mountain Denali, or McKinley. I don't care what you call it. This has been an adventure 4 years in the making for me, and I'm so excited to get to take you along for the ride with me. But I'm also nervous. I woke up at 2 a.m. last night and couldn't stop wondering, am I fit enough? Have I done enough to prepare for this? When we're up at high altitude and it's bitterly cold and I'm hypoxic and everything is hard to do, will I have the mental determination to keep going? And if something goes wrong, will I have the humility to turn around or ask for help? There's a lot of unknowns. And I looked at the weather forecast and it says the next 10 days are all rain. It's just a reminder that we can prepare all we want for this mountain, but when it comes to mountaineering, we are not the main character in this play. The outcome is out of our hands. But that's what makes it exciting. And I hope you'll enjoy this process as we go climb Denali or McKinley.
Every pilot's different.
I'll take those last.
Here at Camp 1, about 7,600 feet. Today we took about 3/4 of our gear up to 10,000 feet, buried it in a big hole, and then came back down. Tomorrow we'll get the rest of our camp and move all the way up to Camp 2 at 11,000 feet. And then the next day will more or less be a rest day where we'll come back down to 10,000 feet, pick up all the gear that we cached, and then make the final move up to Camp 2. It's been about 5 or 6 days. I'm not sure, I'm not keeping count. The biggest challenge we've probably faced so far is each other. and the group kind of figuring out how to live together, 12 strangers. And a couple of people have brought a cold with them. And I don't know if you ever noticed this, this happens at work too, where you'll be in a conference room, someone will sneeze and cough, and then start rubbing hand sanitizer on their hand. I think that's kind of strange. Like your nose and mouth just ejaculated viral mucus into the air, but your hands are sanitized. I'm not sure that that's solved the issue. Well, I come from New York City. I'm around a lot of people, and my significant other works in a hospital, so I'm hoping that I've brought enough immunity already on this trip, because getting to 17,000 feet and then coming down with a respiratory virus makes for a challenging situation. Well, the rest of the day for us will just be resting after an 8-hour hard day, and then get up in the morning and do it all over again. Coming to you from Camp 2, directly behind me is the start of the West Buttress. What you're looking at up there is probably 16,000 feet. We'll go up the hill behind us, which is called Motorcycle Hill, go around to Camp 3 at 14,000 feet, and then take the fixed lines up to High Camp, assuming the weather cooperates. It hasn't cooperated so far, and I hope you can see behind me is the remnants of a pretty large Serac fall. Happened about 7:30 this morning. Woke up to the sound of a freight train with a horn of thunder. The earth shook for a couple minutes as you can hopefully see. Boulders of ice the size of houses and cars came careening down not more than 40, 50 yards behind us. So sorry, Mom. We got up to Camp 2 a couple of days ago. We wanted yesterday to go back down to 10,000 feet to retrieve our cache, but the weather was just too bad, so it turned into a rest day. And then today, we did descend into the blizzard, retrieve all our cache, and bring it back up, and have found just an absolutely gorgeous afternoon here at Camp 2. It is noticeable on the mountain with the cuts that there are far fewer resources available to us, and if you talk to the guides, they will report that many of their friends lost their jobs, and the Forest Service is really operating on a shoestring right now, and that's sad and a disappointment, along with the fact that there are fewer climbing expeditions out here, so a lot of kind of strong recessionary forces for the mountain. And I mean, one of the big wonderful privileges we have is the ability to come to places like this and enjoy nature in a pristine and cared for way. The big difference between Denali and Everest is it's clean. You don't have human waste everywhere. You don't have body parts strewn all over the place. And we have a really important responsibility to take care of these places so we can all enjoy them. Well, tomorrow we will do our first carry on our way up to Camp 3 at 14,000 feet, assuming we get some good weather again. And then the day after, we'll pull the rest of our stuff all the way up to 14 Camp. It's day 15, standing here at Camp 3, a little over 14,000 feet. We got caught in what felt like a never-ending storm at Camp 2 at 11,000 feet. The weather just came and it would not stop. It was long enough in Camp 2 for me to read 40% of Lord of the Rings. But it's a good thing we didn't move on the second day. 3 skiers from Seattle were coming down from here, Camp 3, and fell off one of the hills and went missing, lost their life. So we were happy to stay put. We eventually got a window yesterday to make our way up to 14, and I got to tell you, that is one of the hardest days of my life. Where we were in Camp 2, we're kind of in a little bowl protected by any wind, but if you looked up on the ridge, you could see just the winds just whipping. And we got past the first hill and just immediately were blown with non-stop 30 to 40 mile an hour winds. And it made it clear that this is absolutely an American adventure to be on Denali, and had full packs, a full sled, and then just spent much of the day, getting really close to a steep wall of ice and slowly making our way up. Coldest I've ever experienced, had to cover every part of my body up. Frostbite was a real factor. And then we hit kind of the final pass called Windy Corner. Windy Corner is this massive sentinel of black granite that's encased in this steep blue ice. And as we were making a way around that, my left foot punched through into a crevasse. And as I was using my right foot to push out, it pushed through, and I rolled on my back and I started to slide down the hill. But I was able to spin around and get some good purchase with my ice axe, which was lucky. And then kind of had that moment of embarrassment looking at the rest of the team. But they gave me a second, and I got my wits about me, and we made it up here to 14. We do appear to have a weather window coming up here in the next 2 or 3 days, but there's a lot of work ahead of us. You couldn't see it, but I'm looking at a 2,000 foot face that we've got to scale up that ends in 800 feet of fixed line ascension. So a lot of hard work ahead of us. So just taking a day to day to kind of rest and recuperate and get the mental fortitude back. But while you're seeing me here frozen, I hope you are at home warm, and makes me think about all my loved ones and giving them hugs. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know if I'm going to be able to videotape much on the upper mountain, but if I can, I will.
That way?
Cinder rigs on.
17,000 foot Camp 4 on Denali, which is absolutely remarkable. There's a plane going overhead. We have just gorgeous weather. You couldn't believe that at the beginning of this trip, we spent 8 days hunkered down in a tent in a blizzard. I don't think anyone on our expedition thought there was any chance that we were going to even be up here, let alone looking at an almost ideal summit day conditions for tomorrow. I have spent years to get to this point, to have the opportunity to go after the last 3,000 feet on Denali and stand on the top of North America. So, people have to come up here multiple times to get that opportunity. And to this point, the summit success rate has been only 9% for this year. So, we are just incredibly fortunate. I am not counting my chickens yet, though, because anything could happen. So just trying to stay in the moment. But behind me, we've got Mount Foraker and Mount Hunter. You can see Camp 1 where we came from. It's absolutely ideal up here. And one of the most remarkable things is that you follow the lower Talkeetna Glacier up before peeling off to the right to come up Denali. And the Talkeetna Glacier is actually the subduction zone between two plates. So on one hand, you have this really dark composite rock, and then on the other hand, you have this granite. And you can see this dark composite rock impregnated into the granite. So it's an adventure, and if you've enjoyed this, I hope you'll like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you'll come and take this on. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So tomorrow we will attempt the summit, and then the following day will be basically a death march. We are at the very end of our expedition, and we will have 24 hours to march through the day and night to get to the airfield by Saturday morning so that we can get a flight, hopefully, off of this rock.
Might be second.
Day before yesterday, had the incredible privilege to stand on top of Denali. And because we had such terrible weather at the beginning of our trip, we've had to hustle back down to the base camp. So about 11 a.m. yesterday, we left 17,000 foot high camp, and it's about 5 a.m. the next day. The thing about Denali is in order to get off of Denali, you have to get to the landing strip at 8:01 a.m. to get your name on the list to be flown out. And if the weather's good, a plane will come and pick you up. And we are currently racing a couple of other teams to get first on that list. So even though we've been going for what feels like 3 straight days, they are pushing us pretty hard to get to the airstrip, and I don't mind. I'm ready to go home. It's hard to think about what comes next. I mean, after summiting Aconcagua and now Denali, I've punched my ticket to the Himalayas. But I know that these trips are very challenging and stressful for my family. So I think go home, recuperate, and look towards Ironman Phoenix in November. It'll be my second time competing in that triathlon. I am thinking, however, next though, for a video, I'm gonna do a video on what it's like to bomb in New York City comedy clubs. I think that could be pretty funny and interesting. Well, thanks so much for following along on this epic American adventure, and please make sure to leave any comments or questions you have about Denali and what it takes to get here and get to the top of it. Bye-bye.
That was pretty decisive. That was a good one to win. Yeah, that was good. I never win at rock, paper, scissors. I already knew. I should have just said I'm staying.